Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Noah Davis, a communications manager for the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership. Thanks for stepping into the arena and joining us for another conversation in our series highlighting the voices, stories, and efforts advancing America's legacy of conservation, habitat, and access across the country. At TRCP, we work to guarantee all Americans quality places to hunt and fish by bringing together conservation organizations, decision makers, and passionate individuals like you. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by professional photographer Brian Grossenbacher, whose skill with a camera and commitment to conservation makes him an invaluable member of the outdoor community. Brian has shot commercial campaigns for Yeti, Orvis, Sims, and Mossy Oak. He recently surpassed the 300th magazine cover milestone and regularly contributes to Field and Stream, Outdoor Life, Gray Sporting Journal, Covey Rise, Shooting Sportsman, and many other publications. Brian also provided the photos to the book Trout, written by Tom Rosenbauer, as well as the Orvis Guide to Upland Hunting, written by Reed Bryant. I've had the privilege of sharing a bird camp with Brian and hope he's willing to offer a few of his good stories here today. Brian, thanks so much for being here.
Noah, thank you, man. Thanks for having me. This is really an honor, and I just appreciate the gesture. Thank you.
Well, good. You've been a good friend to TRCP, and I'm glad that after all of our conversations, across the email, we were able to share that Oahe camp last year, and you're a good guy to have around a campfire.
Oh man, thank you. That was a wonderful time in a beautiful part of the world too. That was a true pleasure.
Good. Yeah, I know everyone that was there feels the same way. Well, we've already done an In the Arena written profile about you, and so we have a little bit of insight around your background and growing up and being introduced to hunting and fishing. But could you maybe expand on that a little bit? We know about the 4-pound pike on the birthday.
I feel kind of bad. You guys asked about how I had gotten into hunting and fishing, and I mentioned, my father and both grandfathers, and my grandfather on my mother's side, he died when I was 8, and I was kind of remiss in cutting out my grandmother because she was an integral part after my grandfather passed on that side. In that every time I would go to visit her, she was always really good about, she lived on the Intercoastal Waterway in Florida and had this great dock system behind her house. And every time I would come to visit, she always had frozen shrimp, in the bag. And I'd run to the freezer, grab a cane pole and head out onto the dock and catch on the Intercoastal Waterway. You'd catch everything, from rays to snapper and grunts, and it was a highlight for me. And I spent hours out on her dock. And one particular trip, she, for whatever reason, forgot to pick up shrimp, and I go to the freezer and it's empty. And she was horrified, and she's like, I'm going to go right now. And so I still wanted to fish. And so I comb through and I see a packet of Oscar Mayer hot dogs, and like, well, this will do. I go down to the dock and there I am with my Oscar Mayers, and I'm cutting them into little bitty bits and putting them on the hook. And, the things are looking up. I'm catching a few fish, and unbeknownst to me, these old salts, come walking by, and one guy elbows his buddy, and he goes, hey kid, looks down at my Oscar Mayer hot dogs. He goes, what you fishing for? Buns. And I was like, oh man, it just took the wind out of my sails a little bit, but grandmother showed up with shrimp a few hours later, and I was good to go. But she did help. But I was blessed, I think, like a lot of people are, to have a great family support unit that introduced me to the outdoors. And my dad would take me bass fishing, and like I mentioned, my grandfathers were wonderful as well. And I just took off. The interest to me was really the natural fit, and I just absolutely loved every minute fishing and bird hunting when I could.
That's fantastic. Some grandmas have cookies ready for you. Others have shrimp in the freezer.
That's right. That's right.
That's perfect. Good. Well, right there, people get to see your gift for storytelling. But as a professional photographer, I know you have a treasure trove of stories, all the different exciting places that you've been able to travel to. Do you think you could offer one, maybe recent or maybe old?
Without a doubt, and this isn't a photography related story on my part, but a lot of people don't know about this. But I was asked to be in a TV pilot for the History Channel a couple of years ago, and they wanted me to be sort of this historian of sorts. And the premise behind the show was to capture human-animal interactions throughout history that have gone horribly wrong. And so they wanted to do a couple of pilots. And again, my role was, as sort of the narrator and the historian. But our first episode took us to Myanmar. And what we were investigating was the largest crocodile attack in recorded history, where over 1,000 Japanese soldiers were killed over a 28-day period during World War II. And what they wanted to do was to see if maybe the crocodiles in that particular region were just natural man-eaters, or whether it was a sort of a perfect storm for human crocodile interactions. But nevertheless, myself and my partner, this crazy kid from Australia, Andrew Eucles, who is world renowned for catching all things with teeth and venom and will scratch and cut you. Andrew catches them by hand, and he's absolutely.
I think I've seen him on YouTube.
He's crazy. He's absolutely crazy. If you want to go to a great YouTube video, look up Andrew Eucles rabbit hunting with snakes. He literally catches two of the top 10 deadliest snakes in the world to use rabbit hunting, and he's just walking along, carrying these snakes. But so Andrew and I, we find ourselves in Myanmar, and we're trying to catch this 17.5-foot crocodile that has scars on its snout. And this particular crocodile was deadly, had killed a woman 6 weeks before we arrived. It was very recognizable. It was literally terrorizing the local village. And Andrew came with a 25-foot crocodile trap. And we set it up on the first day that we arrived. And again, we are in the middle of nowhere, Myanmar. It took us 4.5 hours going downriver in this kind of a freighter type boat, 4.5 hours going downriver, open air camp. And we set up this crocodile trap. It's 25 feet long. Just imagine like a long nylon, like seatbelt style webbing type tube, that is, let's just say it's 1 meter wide by 1 meter tall. And we staked it out. We butchered a pig. We put it at the head of this trap. And we were running a burlap bag full of mud up in the tree. So that's the weight that once the croc comes in, eats the pig, it releases the trigger point, the bag full of mud falls down, it zips up the back of the trap, and we have the croc. And as we were setting it up, Andrew's up in the tree, and he's trying to get a pulley rigged in the tree branch. And a storm came in and horrible lightning. And one of the producers said, "Hey, just run the rope over the tree branch. You don't need the pulley. Just run the rope over the tree branch." And so we did that, came down from the tree, we set up game cameras, and then we watched, and each day we'd go and we'd look by the trap and to check and see if that weight had fallen. Then we'd know, that we've got the croc in the trap, and the weight never moved. And so after a week, we decided the pig's probably eaten, the pig's gone or rotten. We should just go in and check the game cam, see what's happening. If we had any activity, the pig was indeed gone. We pulled the footage from the game cams, and we went back to camp and to check it out. And what we found was that on the very first night, we had the croc. We had the 17.5-footer with the scars on its snout, and he was all the way in our trap, and he ate the pig. And what had happened was when he released the trigger mechanism, the weight in the tree only fell this much, and then the rope ate into the branch. It had been raining, and so the soft bark just allowed the rope to get into the branch. And we have all this on the game cam footage, and that giant croc just backs his way out of the trap. And that's significant because we then had to try to catch him by hand. And we literally spent the next 2 weeks going out from 11 p.m. until 3 a.m. And we were in, I'm not kidding you, we were in a flycraft raft that we brought over with us.
Okay? No.
9 feet long.
But the dang alligator.
It's a 9-foot raft, and Andrew and I are in it. It's 32 inches wide. And, the on it, it's maybe another 9 or 10 inches. And so it was literally, I remember thinking it was like hunting grizzly bears from a golf cart. It was the worst mode of transportation you can imagine. And Noah, we caught 2 by hand between the 2 of us. We got a 10-footer, which this is how, like, I don't think things through, because it wasn't until, and again, I'm supposed to be the historian, but I'm in this raft, I'm a part of this, and I hadn't thought through what's going to happen, like, once we get a croc. And Andrew slipped the noose around its neck, and as soon as we both started pulling on that rope, this thing went ballistic. And we were on land at this point, and it is snapping its mouth. I remember just seeing the mouth open, just wide. And here's the kicker, Noah. We're pulling it towards us. Like, we're pulling it towards us. This 10-foot saltwater crocodile as hard as we can. And what Andrew said is, he goes, "Listen, man, you've got to trust me. You've got to trust me. As soon as you flip the scales on these guys, as soon as you become the predator and they're the prey, they understand it and they try to get away." And he was exactly right. And the second one we caught was a 15-footer. And if you want to talk about chaos, and this is, they filmed it all, and it was literally the 2 of us catching, these 2 crocs, and it was something else. It was something else, and I kind of went there. There was one point when the 15-footer had gotten subdued. We had literally wrestled him into a point where he was very docile, and Andrew went into explaining, a lot about, just the biology of the crocs, and the cameras came in close, and little did we know, this saltwater croc was just waiting. It was just biding its time, and I was holding him with the noose around its neck, but 2-3 minutes have passed. He hasn't moved. He's just very docile, and the camera, guys move in closer and closer and closer, and then they get to the point. And I'll tell you, that guy raised up on his, just bum rushed the closest camera guy. And you've heard stories of grandmothers, like, picking up cars, off of their kids. And So I summoned the strength of 1,000 men, and I am not a strong guy. Like, I am not a big, strong, powerful guy. I dug into that thing and I was yelling. I was like, I've got him, I've got him. And I stood that thing up on his back legs, and I am not kidding you. It was so close. So just a bang, just a snap of the jaws. And without a doubt, that is the craziest thing in the hours that I hope I ever experienced. That was something else, man.
That is an insane story. Holy cow. You're a very brave person. I can deal with grizzlies. I can't deal with crocs and alligators. Just
man, I appreciate you saying brave. I think it was just, I just didn't think it through. I didn't think it through until it was go time, and then it was all over, and just it was just react and respond to the situation.
Holy cow. Well, thank you for that story. Jeez. I'm glad you're back. And you
Me too, man. Me too. That was the best. And to get back from that, and fortunately, the show was called Face the Beast, and it was on the History Channel. You can still find the episodes on Amazon. We did 2 shows, and the second one was on sharks and shark swarms, and we did a story that went back to the 1600s to an English ship that sank, and all the survivors were eaten by sharks, and we swam with sharks and stuff. Had that show made it, one of us was going to become permanently maimed. It was inevitable.
It's just going to become another episode in the series.
Right. And it was it was definitely a tiger chasing its tail, and fortunately, wiser folks at History Channel decided to pull the plug on it before it got out of hand.
Wow, jeez. Before.
Yes.
Before. Yeah. Well, we'll transition a little bit, maybe away from adventure, more to conservation here with this next question. But because of your travels and throughout your life in the outdoors, have you seen certain specific events or experienced different moments where you saw a conservation issue come up to the forefront? For you, and was there a specific inciting incident where you were like, I need to get involved in conservation?
Yeah. I started guiding in 1992, and if you go back, you weren't even born by at that point, but looking back in 1992, fly fishing took a major jump onto the scene because Robert Redford came out with the movie A River Runs Through It, based on Norman Maclean's wonderful book of the same name. And if you remember from reading the book, the storyline took place over on the Blackfoot River outside of Missoula. And when they went to film, the Blackfoot had been degraded so much over the years from extractive industries, from logging, mining, and it was under risk of development at the time. And they literally couldn't film the movie there. And so they took it over to the Gallatin and did the filming there. But what that did was it served as a wake-up call for the residents that lived along the Blackfoot River. And they're like, it really sunk home, that hey, like, we're all at fault here. This is a river that we can, look back a generation or 2 generations, and this was a wonderful river. And now, the trout populations are in decline. The areas around it have been logged and mined and affected in such a negative way. What they did was they formed a group called the Blackfoot Challenge, and And it literally was a conglomeration of all of the parties that were involved. It was a community partnership, but it was loggers, it was miners, it was folks that owned property along the Blackfoot River. There were farmers, ranchers, and everyone that was involved, with that watershed took ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And they have done some amazing things. That was in 1992, and to date, they have really done some amazing community outreach things. They've put almost 90,000 acres into conservation easements. They have gone in and protected tributaries and they have improved irrigation head gates. But that early time period in Montana, the early 90s, I should say, in Montana was really a turning point in a lot of ways, where the state had been, heavily involved in the extractive industries, and tourism was also starting to flourish, and so, fly fishing is going up and to the right. And the extractive industry still had the powerful lobbies, in the government. It was really an interesting time. So what I tried to do, as a guide, was, every day I had a willing set of ears, sitting in the car seat next to me as we're driving to the river. And I was based in Bozeman. So everywhere we went, we either had to drive to the Madison or we had to drive to the Yellowstone. And there were great stories to tell. And there were great opportunities to educate people, not only of the amazing wonders of Yellowstone National Park, but, also things like some of the mining operations that were going on, or some of the logging practices, and you could see it firsthand, where clear cutting was decimating some of the national forests. And it was important, and you could show people real time, you'd step into the Gallatin River and show tracks of spawning reds that had been, just absolutely silted out from from the steep, clear cuts that just washed the silt right into the river.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or when you're floating and all of a sudden tributaries spewing brown, and it's no longer that good gin clear Montana water flowing anymore. But yeah, that's. I do have to say that is even before my time. 30 years, 30 plus years down the road. And so from that time, from that inception, those early days in Montana, and seeing what can be done, through collaboration to bring back an amazing river like the Blackfoot. Fast forwarding 30 plus years, what do you see are some of the biggest challenges of conservation now?
I think the biggest challenges now are just the division. The division in our country, that it's either black or it's white, and I think we've gotten to a point where we need to start looking at conservation just being a part of our world that we're going to have to deal with. Sure, it may be more profitable to go in and do something quick and dirty, but we've got to start looking at the bigger picture right now. And you look at organizations like Captains for Clean Water, down in the Everglades, and what they've been able to do is basically take a group of competing guides. These are all guides that are competing for clients' money, on a daily basis, and they're trying to prove, okay, I can catch more fish than this guy, you should go with me. But they've put that aside, and they have all joined forces to improve water quality in the Everglades, and it's really a beautiful thing to see and to talk about, and to see the key players that are a part of that. And I think that paradigm can be and should be recreated nationwide, with all of us that are in an industry that's impacted by by Mother Nature, by the great outdoors. If we're making our living uh, through what wilderness offers, we really have that responsibility to give back. And our voice is only stronger if we're willing and able to join hands with those it may be competing members, within the same field, but it just
Mhm.
makes us stronger to become approach take a more of a team approach.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about that, about the collaboration within the hunt fish community, what that can do? Do you see that as a bright spot in this moment of division for our country?
No, I think the model that Captains for Clean Water has given us is just that a team approach is much stronger than an
Yeah.
individual. We're up against large corporations, and in their case, it's Big Sugar that is affecting water in the Everglades, and many voices are much more powerful than one. And you've got other guys, Carter Andrews, with his TV shows on the Outdoor Network, and his strong presence online of he's promoting picking up one piece of trash per day, one piece per day, one piece per day. And I travel with Carter, I shoot with Carter a bunch, and it's amazing how many times he'll roll into a dock, and he's anchoring his boat or pulling in, and people will shout out, one piece a day, Carter, and it's a very small effort, but it's paying big dividends. And
Mhm.
again, it's two approaches. It's combining our efforts into a team, to combat and to combat abuse against the our environment. But it's also uh, it's taking steps as individuals, on our own time to make a difference. And I think if conservation just becomes part of our mindset, and we approach life as that's really a responsibility that I have. Uh, I think we're going to make the world a better place.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's TRCP's vision is that we are stronger together. When we unite, we can win. And
Well,
that's what the partnership is about.
look at the campfires, when we were out on the Oahe, and
Mm,
the vast array of backgrounds and
mhm.
individuals that we had there. It came from all over the country. All the big picture was we were in pursuit of birds, but at the top of all of that, we were really looking for something much bigger,
Mhm.
and that was for protecting and promoting access to world class habitat. and
Yeah.
and that was a magical part of the trip for me, at least.
Oh, exactly. I mean, special places make special moments, and we want future generations to be able to have similar special moments and memories in places like the Oahe. And you mentioned about what an individual can do. What would be some advice for somebody who would like to get involved and make a difference, uh, to get into the world of conservation?
I think it's just look around, look and listen and educate yourself. What are the issues? Uh, what what are the struggles? What are people talking about? Listen, talk to your peers. Um, and then find out where you can donate your time, or where you can become involved, and whether or not you feel like you're underqualified or overqualified. It's the first step is just getting involved, uh, and there will be a place for you. And it's just find out how you can help, and what you can give back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good advice. I mean, I think about, the different organizations that are part of the TRCP coalition. I mean, if you like hunting grouse, you got the Rough Grouse Society, Bonefish and Tarpon Trust, pheasants, trout. Yeah, what people have your passions, your similar passions out there, and you can jump in. Everyone's wanting more folks to jump in. So yeah, that's good advice.
And that's the beauty of TRCP too, is that you guys have chosen organizations to unite with that are proven leaders and are getting things done. And so by going to your website and looking at your partnerships, that's a wonderful first step. And you guys have already done the vetting, and you will know that your efforts are going towards a good direction.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
That's a good vote of confidence. Well, so thank you for those really thoughtful responses. I think we're going to transition now to some photography questions, and I'm totally serious here. Do you work out to stay in shape for photography? Because you're not just hanging out in the studio. I got to see you. You're chasing hunters. You're chasing dogs. You're trying to get that right shot, all while schlepping around $10,000 worth of camera gear. So it's a real physical job.
And it really is. I went to see a physical therapist a few years ago, and I had just turned 50, and everything was creaking and aching, and she was like, well, like, what do you do for work? And I said, oh, I'm a photographer. And she's like, and I had to explain to her, and I felt like an absolute fool, because it was one of those times where I just thought, I'm going to be really honest, and so I'm like, I'm trying to show her like how I've been down, and get this angle and that angle, and she just looked at me like I had a third eye, like, this is the last time I'll ever be honest with her in my life. But I do try to stay in shape. I mountain bike whenever I can. Usually when the fall rolls around, I'm on the road and traveling and hunting and trying to keep up with you guys enough that it's every day is a good day of working out. But fortunately, I just try to stay active as best I can. And this morning I got up at 5 and went to hot yoga, try to anything I can do to kind of loosen up the joints. But I'm not much. I've never had a gym membership. I just like to stay active as best I can.
Yeah. I've heard that same advice from a lot of folks that I admire who have been able to do the things they love for a long time, and that's what I hope to do too. So yeah, just be active, don't sit as much.
Right.
So how did you get into photography?
Oh man, so it was I didn't even own a camera when I was guiding, for the most part, and I was asked to write a book on kind of a guidebook to fly fishing Montana. And they gave the photo budget for the book, and it was so small. My plan was, we'll do the book, and then we'll buy the photos. And
Yeah.
I think the photo budget for a 120-page book was $1,500. Maybe it was $1,800, but it wasn't enough to buy very many photos. And so I thought about it, and it's like, well, I'm on the river every day. Fall's coming up, I can kind of travel. The guidebook captured all of the major rivers in Montana. I thought maybe I'll buy a camera and 2 lenses and see what I can get myself. And this was in 2005. And so digital photography was just kind of coming into play. And I literally kind of read the instruction book that came with the camera and just started taking shots. And by the time the book was published, I had sold half a dozen magazine covers. I was getting some solid response from companies like Orvis, and what was happening, Noah, was I never paid attention to the fishing magazines at the time, but looking back, every magazine cover was some guy holding a fish, the classic grip and grin, and that's not what I was shooting. I was just coming from a guiding perspective. I was used to seeing the different elements of fly fishing and what that had, and the art, and for 15 years I was fishing vicariously and watching people fish, and so I knew what angles I liked, and I knew kind of what I wanted to see in a photo. And so when I started sending those out to magazines, and when I sent them into the book for publication, the response was wonderful. And
Awesome.
I can remember like sitting in a small restaurant outside of Missoula, and I had just taken some shots on the Bitterroot all morning, and I just remember thinking, man, if I could figure out a way to make a living doing this would be the best job possible, and I had been guiding since 92. That was 2005. I continued guiding for another 5 years after that, and just gradually transitioned from guiding fewer trips and taking more photos, and by 2010 I was able to make a true living just with photography, and that's where I've been.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And what a thing to be able to have that idea of like, that would be the best job in the world, and then you go make it happen.
Man, I for years and years, I consider myself, I've considered myself the luckiest guy alive. Just to, it's when I've got a camera in my hand, and either on the water or behind bird dogs, it just never seems like work. And it's to be able to go out and capture and do the things that I love, albeit vicariously, it's really rewarding.
Yeah, that's a great way to feel. And so, could you share a little bit with folks who might want to be honing their skills in outdoor photography, like maybe a tip or two? I really like that one of get your own angles.
Yeah, probably the easiest thing to control. And it kind of gets back to me contorting myself, like I was in the physical therapist's office. But one of my pet peeves in a photo is when the horizon line cuts right through the middle of the picture, or it cuts right through the subject matter. And we've all seen it. You look at a photo and here's the horizon, cutting right through, the person's head. And to me, it's the ultimate distraction. And so, a lot of times I will literally shoot from my waist down, holding the camera down, looking at the viewfinder, even getting to a spot where I can walk with the camera just right above the grass, to get a different angle where the person is maybe silhouetted against the sky versus versus the horizon cutting through.
Yeah.
Shoot with, with your subject matter in mind, and use the camera to crop for you. When you set up a shot, think about where you want the subject to be. Don't just shoot everything wide, and figure that you can go in and clean it up later. Be
Yeah.
intentional with how you're shooting, because if you do just go out and spray and pray, and it's very possible, with a digital camera, and believe me, I've done it, man. It's like it comes back and it haunts you on the back end when you have to go through and edit all those photos.
Yeah.
I count on, for a day of shooting, I have a day of editing, and it's just you can't cut corners with that. And so I've got to be careful that I'm not overshooting, a particular subject or a shot. And sometimes that's you're in a target rich environment, you're the birds are flying, and that's when it's beautiful. That's when it's happening. But also some of the best shots, and some of my favorite shots, I guess, have come during those slow moments, in a hunt, when people are tired, or they're worn down, or they're things happen, and those are the true moments of the sport. And that's when you get to see the true emotion. And when the birds are flying and the fish are jumping, that's awesome too. But when things get slow, it forces me to think in a different way. All right, what is the situation demanding? What's presenting itself? How can I capture this in a way that's unique? So you kind of, as a photographer, you kind of have to accept what Mother Nature gives you, weather-wise, condition-wise, bird-wise, fish-wise, and make the most of it. And never hope for, man, I wish it was sunny, or I wish it was, the fishing was better. That's not it. That's not your job. Your job is to make the most of every moment you're out there. And sometimes those really true moments in our sport come when things are just, grinding and just boring and slow and stuff. But it's like anything else. If you're getting into photography and you're really looking to improve your game, just shoot everything, and don't be afraid to, you're going to go out and you're going to hunt, leave your gun behind, follow your friend, and you'll be amazed at how you look at things differently without a gun in your hands and just a camera.
That's great. Yeah. The literal tool is changing the way that you move.
Yeah, it'll change your perspective, and it's for me, it's like kind of like an alcoholic. Like I can't do both. I can't grab a fly rod and a camera and go and enjoy the day. I end up screwing up both, and so I can't pay the bills by catching fish anymore. So I've got to schlep the camera around, and it's been the same with bird hunting too. But it definitely changes your perspective, changes your outlook when you leave, the gun or the fly rod behind.
Great. I think those are some really good ideas folks should hold on to. Yeah. But besides the camera, what is the one piece of equipment that you need on every shoot?
Oh man, good footwear. Good footwear is a solid pair of boots.
I figured that would be.
It's a solid pair of boots, and I mean, there's no substitute, right?
Yeah.
I was on a hunt once with Reed, and I had just gotten, brand new pair of boots, and I mean, Who does that? Who does it? And so here's the kicker. It was, you talk about grinding it out. We're out hunting with his buddy, sage grouse hunting, and we walked. I'm not kidding you. I think it was just over 17 miles over the course of the day, and I bet you it was about mile 0.75 that I felt the hot spot. And it was one of those where it's like, you know what, you're such an idiot. You're such an idiot that you have to walk through all of this. And I just, it was, by the end of the day, my feet were so bloody and torn up. And so that night we're having dinner, and this was like, Reed is usually, spot on, and he picks these guys, and he like, like they don't want to disappoint him.
Yeah.
And we're at dinner that night. We've walked 17 miles. My feet are bloody, like I'm just, and this guy says, he goes, man, I guess I should have scouted this trip. And I go, what do you, like what? Well, he goes, yeah, man. He goes, I just showed up yesterday. He goes, well, at least we know where not to go next week, and it was like, dude.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, man. That was awesome. But yeah, a good pair of boots is my go-to behind camera gear.
Smart, very smart. Well, let's close down with one more question. What's your favorite shoot to go on, hunting or fishing?
I just came back from a saltwater trip in Mexico, and we were permit fishing, and permit, it's an amazing fish if you're the angler. It's just, they're so elusive, and they're so, and I've been on so many permit shoots, but it was finally like this trip where, like on day 5, it's like, you see, a handful of permit a day, you get a shot here, a shot there. But then once you hook the fish, they don't even jump. They don't even jump. And so, I'm like, I just, it's like, I can't do it. I can't do it again. It's like, I've got the shot of, the guide grabbing the permit by the tail, and that's pretty dynamic and stuff. But, you're in the boat, you're pulling, hours on end, and, days at a time. And so I've written permit off, but that's kind of a long way of going to say, if I were to choose, I would take an upland bird hunt, because you're moving, you're on your feet, it's not like you're in a boat, and, you either have to jump out, or sometimes you can't jump out. You're in the middle of the ocean. You can, I've done that. You swim alongside as, the boat drifts away, and there are sharks, and, you've got all that. But, with bird hunting, you can walk, you can move around, you can change your position. You've got all the cool gear, you've got, beautiful guns. You've got, I don't know, it's like the canvas of the material, the texture of the vest. You've got leather gloves. You've got just so many different, like, just things to shoot. And then you've got dogs, so you have, that element, and not to mention the birds. So there are so many different layers to an upland shoot. And, couple that with the fact that you're in the fall season, the sun is lower in the sky, the shadows are long, the light is golden, the leaves are beautiful, it's my favorite would be in a good upland hunt.
That's cool to know. That's good to know. Keep that in mind as we
all right.
keep moving forward.
Yeah, man. And for all you permit lodges out there, I'm sorry, man. I'm booked.
Oh, geez. That's good. Don't even jump. I'm gonna remember that line for a long time.
They don't even jump. It could be the biggest permit in the world.
Well, thank you, Brian, for all your insight today and joining us. Really
Oh man,
appreciate
thank
that.
you, Noah.
Yeah, and we'll catch up here soon.
All right, buddy. Have a good fall, and hopefully we get to hunt again soon.
Good. Yeah, I'd like that. You too.
All right, take care.
For those of you watching, if you'd like to learn more about Brian and the work he's doing, be sure to check out the links in the description below. At the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, we believe conservation works best when we work together. So if you're passionate about protecting our outdoor traditions, whether it's hunting, fishing, or simply spending time on public lands, we invite you to connect with us at trcp.org and follow us on social media. Thanks for tuning in, and stay tuned for more conversations with the people shaping the future of conservation. Until next time, I'm Noah Davis, and we'll see you in the arena.